I have special guests because it is International Women's Month, and here on YHEA FOO, we are trying our hardest to understand the fairer, more, I wouldn't say logical, but definitely smarter sex.
Logical is fair.
And so I brought on Nurse Ratched.
Hi.
Yeah, that's right. And Roomie. Yo, we have questions on YHEA FOO. So I want to introduce Nurse Ratched here. What do you want to tell us about yourself?
The name Nurse Ratched comes from the fact that I've been a nurse for about 18 years. My patience is almost zero.
Almost zero?
Almost zero, which is why I'm a little ratchet. I'm a good nurse, but like some days you're just like, I don't got time for you. When you work in particularly critical care, closed loop direct communication is how you don't kill somebody. I'm like, do your job.
Because last time I kind of fucked up and I didn't know that we weren't recording. What embarrassing.
We just had an amazing chat. It was good though. I was happy that there were things where I was like, I don't know if this is just my generation or I'm like an old bitch, where she was like, no, I know. And I was like, oh, yes.
I appreciate it all. Okay, I think this is the button for it to start. Let's see. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to YHEA FOO. I am this fool, and I obviously, you guys have probably heard, I have special guests because it is International Women's Month. And here on YHEA FOO, we are trying our hardest to understand the fairer, more, I wouldn't say logical, but definitely smarter sex.
Logical is fair.
And so I brought on Nurse Ratched.
Hi.
Yeah, that's right. And Roomie.
What's
Yo.
up? What's up? Throwing up a deuce.
And so they're going to be joining us today, and they're going to, we have questions on YHEA FOO. And first of all, let me start by saying that I want to give it up to the full army out there for, I think this is the button. No, it's this one. No. As you can tell, we're a work in process. But we got to 1,000 downloads, people. Yes, 1,000. I don't know what that means because I'm 3053 and I don't know exactly how that affects us. But I do know is that someone out there, besides my mom, is listening.
Yeah.
That and that one fool out in India and those 8 fools out in Canada for holding it down.
It'll tell you where they're listening.
Oh, yeah. Oh. I got like 7 fools out in Reno that are like, holding it
Canada,
down.
Eh?
Yeah,
hey,
dude.
Our Canadians,
dude,
thank you.
Hard, holding it motherfucking down. And for the rest of you that I haven't given a shout out to, don't worry. It will come. I have a list for that one fool out in, I think I have one fool out in Michigan.
Okay.
Out there just holding it down, trying to preach the gospel. Be like, you gotta listen to these fools.
He's in Michigan being like, so many fools out here.
These fools, and you're not all tuning in. So I want to give a thank you for all of you that are supporting us, and it makes me feel like we're not just breathing out to the ether a bunch of nonsense, that someone's actually getting something out of it, even if it's just a laugh.
Oh yeah,
right.
We need a little more of that.
A little more of that, right? A little less. This is not. There's layers to this show, but every so often, you can get a chuckle out of it. That's the goal.
Real life stuff,
Kinda. So I want to introduce Nurse Ratched here.
Hello.
And what do you want to tell us about yourself?
All right. The name Nurse Ratched comes from the fact that I've been a nurse for about 18 years. I know I sound super young. And I've done a lot of different types of nursing, particularly the kind that kind of maybe gives me the Nurse Ratched is all the time I spent in the emergency room, which gives you a very good feel on people. It really does. You're like, okay, I learn a lot of people behavior that way. And my patience is almost zero. Almost zero, which is why I'm a little ratchet, because now, it's like.
Hence, someone coming in with a cut artery is no different than an elbow.
You would be surprised. I mean, like, I've literally had people like, you're doing CPR and they're like, I'm not dying. And you're like, yes, asshole, because you're not dying and you want a glass of water while we're pumping on somebody's chest. I'm going to put acid in that water.
That give you something to complain about.
No, I'm a good nurse, but like, there are just people that you're just like, you see any type of person you can imagine walk into an ER. So you are like, your bandwidth is like, so some days you're just like, I don't got time for you.
I couldn't, I briefly lived in your world for about 10 years as a young adult as part of my growing process.
Okay.
And it does I was thinking about this and I was like, it does put a lot of things in perspective. When you take a bullet out of someone or someone has a heart, like it's suddenly like, I was telling Roomie before you got here about my horrible day yesterday. Oh. But I thought about your horrible day.
Well, that's what
And the perspective just shifted because I was like, I work in a pretend world where things are not really real with other people that play pretend with me and take it really serious. Right.
Well, I get that because it's a degree. And that's why, like, one time my friend was like, she was stressed about work and we're like kind of sitting and chatting. And I was like, totally, man. And, and I don't think about it in the sense of like how it probably sounds when you're like exchanging this like rough day stuff. I don't mean it in any kind of like Trump, like checkmate. But I'm just kind of being like, yeah, dude, my day. And then they look at me and they're like, well, what the fuck am I talking about? And you're like, no, yours is important too. I just have a different type of job. I look at it just like you do. And they're like, I know.
You know how I know? Because I'm so in that world, because my adult life was mostly in that world. Yeah. Right. So I used to be an X-ray MA tech, and I used to run an urgent care. That's my background in that world. Yeah. And even in that world, doctors would tell you yes or no answers. And they would be rough with you and just be like, hey, and then there would be this, and then when you were supposed to say, I don't know. And he would tell you, yes, tell me you don't know. That way I can tell you in the midst of you being in surgery, taking out a bullet and the patient is there. Right. And he would just tell you, be like, just tell me you don't know. Yeah. And then I'll tell you and so I became very like I like it when people just tell me.
So something where I feel like you're what you might be along lines with, which a little bit of other background is I'm a New Yorker, born and raised. So there's a little bit of a certain vibe, perhaps now that I've been out here, that New Yorkers have that like to me when I'm home, like I'm like, oh no, I'm not too direct or aggressive. But out here, people are like, because I'm not, I don't know, like lacing myself with sugar before I say everything. Like if I'm like, I need you to go do this. So like, okay, well, like just calm down a minute. I'm like, what?
But you live in that world where that is supposed to be like.
Well, that's what I say. I'm like, when you work in particularly critical care, which is what I lay back on this every time I get spoken to about my directness, is that I'm like, closed loop direct communication is how you don't kill somebody. We're not like, hey, could you maybe come over here and start doing some compressions? I'm so sorry. Do you mind just coming over for a minute? And in my head, I'm like, people out here, I'm like, New York direct. I'm like, do your fucking job.
So imagine that background in my age, and then I go work with people that play pretend. Yeah. And they can't just be direct with me.
I tear their asses up.
I have my boss, my decorator. I love her to death. And one of the reasons why I love her to death, because as a leader, she's so direct. She's so direct in telling me like, nope, this is what I need. Nope, go get the. And the fact that she dictates a room that way, I love it. But there's people that, like they're this.
She's a bitch.
Well, no.
But if it was a guy, they would just be like, oh, my boss is like, he knows what he wants. But a woman, they're like, she's so angry all the time.
No,
it's like, no, she just knows what she wants. And she's sitting in the big chair.
Because I had to work with women doctors and women surgeons.
That is a little bit of a touchy subject. I hate to do this, but like sometimes they're just extra bitchy because they feel like they have to. And sometimes you're like, yo, bitch, we're on the same team. Take that shit, roll it over to some dude in your department, like some doctor dude, because I worked with anesthesiologists for a long time, and the women would be like, and you're like, dude, don't bark at me, man. Like, I'm not the one that's making your life hard because you're 5% of a 100% male dominated field, because it is often, for a long time people looked at it like a nurse is the female's job, a doctor is the male's job, and that's shifting. But there is, even in my profession, and I've been doing this for 18 years, there are still nurses, which drive me crazy, where we're like, hey, boomers, retire, where they're like, yes, doctor, whatever you say, doctor, yes, 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 yes. And so there's this shift of nurses who are like, I have my own degree in education, and doctor said so doesn't cover it. So like, I'm going to tell you, I don't agree with that order, and so there's like that shift in generations.
Wow, that is a huge shift because
doctors don't like it. And some doctors think like, because I have MD after my name, you gotta like.
Well, because I knew doctors that couldn't read an X-ray.
Yeah, exactly.
I can read an X-ray, so I would.
I know somebody who that X-ray tech would be like, nope, you're not there yet. Nope, that's you're still in the thoracics. Yeah. And you're like, that's great. Med school guy doesn't know the complete anatomy, but we got a guy over here, but they won't admit that.
Well, I had a doctor that I would put him up, and then he would be like,
show me where it is.
No, he would be like, so what you see? What do you see?
I see some bones.
I would grab my pen and be like, you see that right there? That cloudiness in that chest area right there? You see that? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, that's bronchitis.
Yeah.
Right there. I'm all, put your stethoscope to that side of the lung, and if you hear a crackle.
People don't realize is that doctors tend to get very, like, their tunnel vision, especially if they're a specialist. So sometimes, like, the one thing I do love about a nurse, and, like, I've had friends recently, they're like, oh, you're so smart. Why don't you go to med school? And I'm like, fuck med school.
Yeah.
Like, what, to go backwards? Dude, I know more than some doctors who are, like, just became an attending, meaning, like, they're at the top of their game. That's it. And I'm like, but do you need me to talk you through what the hell you're talking about? Because that don't make sense. So scan past your specialty, because the whole body is a system, bro. Like, you know, so I'm glad you're focused over here. But and this is where I'm going to say, like, you know, a lot of nurses are women, and we have a better broad spectrum view of things. I was even talking about this the other day where I'm like, this is a perfect example of why women should run the world, because men are like, tunnel vision, can't look at the big picture.
Shit. So that's Nurse Ratched, everybody. Just to show you where she's coming
International
from.
Women's Month.
Yeah. And now we have Roomie. Roomie, can you give us a little background besides the fact that she, I know that some of you don't know this, but she helps us, especially lately or recently when Mr. Jalendo is, you know, unable to because of his injury to his shoulder and bicep and his overall vibe sometimes. So luckily, Roomie steps into the gap like most women do.
Yes.
Right, Roomie?
Yep.
All right.
Hi.
So you want to give us a little tidbit about yourself?
Yeah. I'm here to provide the Gen Z perspective,
The Gen Z perspective.
I guess.
We don't have enough of it.
We really don't. I don't at all. I mean, I work in a world, like I said, full of pretend, and your generation there does not thrive. It's like a petri dish. I'm just saying, just because a lot of them are not in the positions of, you know, power or influence as of yet, you know, so the majority of them hide behind a shadow of someone else.
Yeah. So I'm Theo's roomie.
Right.
He took me in when I left home for the first time, and now I've got the perspective of a
30, 53-year-old.
30, 53-year-old, 30, 63-year-old, 30, 63-year-old. And you know what? It's not that different. You find you have so many things in common.
Yeah, the struggle is real, no matter what
generation, whatever.
No, that's what. If anything, that's what this show is definitely has brought forth.
Oh yeah,
is that we're all at one point looking at each other and being like, "Are you all like feeling and seeing the same thing?
Yo, fool.
Yo, is this for real?
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So that's your background.
That's my background. I work in the industry. You know, assistant level stuff.
Right.
Working our way up.
That's right.
Maybe one day I'll be a producer.
Yeah. Hustle.
Yeah. Not one day.
No, you will.
Yeah.
Sure.
Exactly.
I will.
Exactly. And then
You know what?
remember this
in a
fun.
good and bad way, in my head is I'm like, probably sooner than you expect, because I don't know what's going on with your generation, but they're just like
They're
don't
go-getters.
They're go-getters, but they also don't give a shit. And I'm like, how come my generation didn't get that? We're instead like bleeding ourselves dry, and we're still being like, you're not giving us enough. And they're like, I don't give a fuck what you want. This is what I made. I'll be back tomorrow, same time. And then they're like, all right, I can't really push this kid, because they'll just leave.
They'll just leave.
You know, they'll just be like, nah, this isn't the vibe. This is so mid. I gotta go.
Yeah, which is I admire it and I hate it.
Yep. Because I think like I work so hard at my work ethic, and these dudes are making me look like,
and they're like,
a
you know
crazy
what,
person.
bro, this isn't for real. And I love that. I love when they tell me this isn't for real, and I can't argue it. I'm like, they're right. It isn't for real. I work in pretend. How
But
can
you
I
could be
push
like,
it?
but the money is real. And if you want real
They
money,
don't care. They don't care. They just don't care.
I know they don't. I don't know. Like,
There's a sense of like the fuck's really not given. They're out of them. They're like completely. They never. It seems like they never even had them.
and they're the ones that like look at you and they'll be like,
Why do you give
are
a
you
fuck?"
okay?
Yeah.
And you're like,
I'm
don't
okay.
ask me if I'm okay. Obviously, I'm not okay. You're still in the okay part of life. I'll catch you in 10 years where you're not okay either. Okay?
I'll catch you outside in 10 years, bitch. See what's up then.
Yeah. I'll throw you a cigarette when you're ready. Okay?
Yeah.
Oh,
no,
and that's exactly what I'm talking about. Right there. Yeah, man. It's whatever, bro. It's cool.
it's cool.
She's not
As long as
stressed.
I'm happy,
Hell yeah.
mentally, physically, I'm not gonna give that up for no fucking
right.
job.
All right. So, Nurse Ratched, on YHEA FOO, we have these little things called, well, the show is called YHEA FOO because we would start normally with, I would ask a question and be like, YHEA FOO. And if you said yes, then
go into it.
we would rent into it for about 5 minutes because I figured that that's what we have.
Okay.
If you say navel, we still have to rant for about 2 minutes.
Okay.
Okay? Now, that's what we're going to say. So I'm going to bring up the subject.
Alrighty.
And you can say
Yaffle.
navel.
Okay.
Navel. All right? So a while back when we started, we had a controversial episode where it was about women's soccer and the women's national team, which, by the way, let's congratulate them because they won the Gold Cup, right? Good job. Finally getting rid of the moms off the team. Smart move. Wow, you actually won getting rid of the moms. But that was the thing, was that they had 5 moms on the team that were playing. And during this conversation that I was having with El Tío, with another man, we were saying, that the women's brain changes after they give birth. Because all these kids were still somewhere young. They were like 4 years old. 4 or 5 years old. And that we were saying that the pathways of the brain as to what was important to you have completely changed in the way that most men, athletes, once they have a child, you don't even have to be around.
Women, that's how you guys relate.
Women, I want to break this to you all right now. We do not develop. You keep changing.
We keep dragging you guys.
We do not develop. There is no sense of urgency whatsoever. All right. You think that because you had a baby that somehow we feel what you feel. We do not. You guys have no oxytocin. That's what it really is. You know what? They're listening to this and they're like, what the fuck is oxytocin?
Google it. You didn't even know you were getting a lesson.
Yeah. It's the love it's the love molecule, gents.
Well, I can tell you, there's so much about hormones that would make a lot of people make sense, but.
So, Yaffle Nuffle. Does the women's brain change after birth? Yaffle Nuffle, yes? Yaffle, you willing to go on it? All right, Yaffle. All right, let's go ahead and talk about it. It does change, right? Were El Tío and me incorrect by saying that, by stating that? You as a medical professional, you would say, yes, it does change, correct?
Yes, I would say there's, like I said, reasons to that because you have significant hormonal shifts that happen, which...
Like you're suddenly your primary objective as a woman who's just had...
Well, it's like... I feel like when those kind of things happen, that's where obviously we're the most advanced of species.
Exactly.
But that's the most primal thing that you can get back to. So that's why you hear stories about moms who are like, wait, what? It's like, if you get between me and my child,
I will kill you.
The things that they've seen women do or be able to get through because they're like, oh, no, that's my child. And they're not joking.
No,
I feel like, I get protective over people. I joke that I can only imagine once I have a child. I'm like, I will tear a city down. If so, I think about if a kid fucks with my kid in school, makes my kid sad. I'm like,
so could you imagine? So here's, because this was my point, right? So you're 17 years old, you're a soccer player, and you're running the extra sprint and winning a game and winning that tournament becomes your number one priority in life, right? Then secondly, you decide to become a mom, right? You're 20 something, you decide to become a mom. You have a mom, you become a mom. Are you running that extra sprint? Are you giving as much fucks about this game? First of all, that's a game. Or is it in the back subconscious portion of your brain more like, what's my baby doing right now? What am I doing here?
I don't think it's so much I'm thinking about my baby. It's it's a perspective shift. And that I feel like happens again, not trying to make it too complex, but even puberty and hormones and a girl being 7 playing on soccer versus a girl getting to high school playing soccer, what that means, how their body is changing, how they're looking at themselves. I feel like when you're really young, there isn't really a huge differentiation. When you're out on the playground, you're I can play soccer with you, dude, because you know what? Technically, we look exactly the same. I just got longer hair than you sometimes. But as hormones happen, it's that's where you see the shift in both bodies. So particularly young men, it's you might see an increase of endurance in certain things because they're also hitting their peak of certain hormonal phases. That's why they say men are the most horniest at 17, 18. That's the peak of their hormones. Correct. Ironically, women, that's their 30s, which is unfortunate for us because men by that time are duh. But yeah. We have a much later peak in our hormones. Yeah. Men peak very young, which is why they're horn dogs. But
well, we're not supposed to live that long.
Yeah, unfortunately, you keep doing it. I think we're keeping you alive. I don't know what we're doing that for. I'm thinking, that's really that's another subject. Exactly, but I think that what you're asking about, and I mean that both similarly in where I'm saying kind of puberty phase, where you see a shift in maybe girls who played soccer all their life. And then it's like, are you going to keep playing in high school where it's like there are other things that start like social aspects of life that become a little more distinct? Guy girl relationships change around that time. So it's like how you're looking at yourself prospectively. The engagement that is required to be an athlete and the other things that you find important.
But you've made it past all that.
Right. So now as an adult,
I
think the difference is I think what you're saying is there like the physical capacity to be the same kind of athlete, or you're talking about the psychological capacity?
Because I think at that point, right, when you become that athlete and you're in that pro level, it's no longer whether you know how to play correctly. That's already been established. Instinct. It's already been it's a staple, right? No one's showing you how to shoot a ball anymore. No one's showing you how to make that run anymore, or showing you how to read the game. You've passed that.
Oh yeah.
Right? So now the difference is the discipline and the desire, whether who is better as a player.
Well, what I will be fair, though, is I don't just think it's discipline and desire, because I think respectfully, even if a male professional athlete becomes a father, they don't take on nearly as much responsibility as the mother does.
True.
So it's like, it's not necessarily like engagement. It's like, yeah, bro, must be nice. Like, go play soccer with your friends, come back and have a beer. Maybe I'll get you to change a diaper. They're screaming mom's name. They want mom.
Well, that's
yeah. And so mom is doing that. I mean, like, she's got a million things on her plate. So I think that when it comes to like a professional athlete, to the degree where sometimes you're pushed to be like, all that matters is this right now.
Exactly. That
sometimes is like, because once you create a life, see it come into the world, you're like, shit, you don't even know what matters. Like, I'll tell you what matters. You know what, to be honest too? Look at men play soccer versus women play soccer. You flick their ear and they're like throw themselves rolling on the ground.
All I'm saying is
don't talk down about guys. We're just talking about women right now.
You're
the women's brain.
Yes. I think the woman's brain is much more complex than a man's.
Yeah, I agree.
For a number of reasons.
I agree that it changes, that it shifts.
Well, there's also social aspects that it's like our brain has to adapt in the world that we live in different than yours does because of how the world approaches your life versus a female's life. So, we navigate where, we've talked about like navigating relationships, how we speak, how we present ourselves to the world. You guys just like have to wake up and open the door.
Wow. Just wake up
and open the door. And you're like, here I am.
Just life happen.
Well, yeah.
Well, okay. I guess we're taking that. Roomie, you have anything to add? Did you learn anything right now about you being pregnant one day?
God.
Yeah.
I hear that pregnancy can make bipolar women not as bipolar.
There are chemical shifts in the brain.
That is crazy.
Like hormones affect how the chemicals in your brain circulate. And that's what I mean. Like, for example, where I was talking about oxytocin, where it's like technically oxytocin is what they say that is more common, that is released particularly during like per se sexual intercourse with a female versus a man. And it's that same kind of hormone is released in excess often like during birth or pregnancy. And that is this kind of hormone that is associated with like linking.
Bonding.
Yeah. So,
like real bond. Like,
yeah.
like
so that's why, like men are like, I could literally, like they don't care. They can, I don't want to say that. I'm being generalized, but I'm saying most men don't like walk out of a one night stand being like, I feel so bad about myself. I'm going to go talk to my friends about whether or not I should have done that. Nope. They're like, they do not care. Women, I think, because we have higher levels of men do have estrogen in their body, but nowhere near the kind of level that we do. They're primarily like testosterone is their head honcho, and then they got like little bits of the others. We have insane fluctuation of all of those hormones throughout each week, each month, each year. So it absolutely, I think that the chemical changing of our brain is more complex than I think the males.
I saw somewhere though, like the male equivalent of oxytocin or whatever, like they get that same feeling when they're stressed, which is why they
get all hyped
when like women, yell at them and stress them out and
Yeah.
Yeah, we're also very complex.
You know what's funny is
it's not you making it seem like we're
no,
some.
because the funny thing is, I know plenty of guys who are like, "We're dumb and simple. Keep it dumb and simple."
Well,
You're right over my head. Well, you can't be dumb and simple and complex.
That's the complexity part.
Or is it like you're like, we're often very confused? That's the complexity.
Probably.
We don't know what's happening. We don't. Or I love how guys are like, women are so crazy, I can't figure it out. And you're like, you don't try.
No,
You're
don't.
like, can you just be my mom? Can you just cook for me and clean for me? I know that every guy's not going to say that, but at the end of the day, there's a degree of like subconscious, like, wait, but like, this is your part of life. How will I eat?
My wife makes sure I cook. All right. So
well, she's a strong ass woman. She's dope.
And when it came to us raising the child, I still feel like I was, besides her giving birth, I mean,
yeah, big deal. Whatever, right?
And doing breastfeeding, whatever the hell that, that just comes out naturally.
Being a complete source of life for another human being, no big deal.
That's what I'm saying. I guess because I saw my wife go through the change, right, mentally, of being a mom, that I couldn't possibly understand a soccer player and being like, dude, you're a mom. You're number one. I know your number one priority isn't this game anymore.
No, yeah. Especially also at a certain age.
Yeah, dude,
I'm not trying to say that sports aren't important. No. But as you go through life, you're like, I got so much shit.
I'm just saying, like, and the flack that we got for this was, well, men and blah blah blah, they can still play sports. And my whole point was,
because they got nothing else to do. They're not worried about nothing else.
My point was, nothing changed.
No.
Physically, they can change. Mentally, they can change. Hormonally, it didn't change. Nothing changed. I'm still living my life. Like my wife would remind me, it's like, you're just still living your life. Like nothing's fucking changed for you. She's like, but I'm over here with this thing attached to me, feeding it, cleaning, cooking, changing diapers.
Well, it also changes our physical body.
Right. And so to me, all of that, I was like, there's no way you're telling me that you're running wind sprints at the end of this practice with this against this 17-year-old.
But I will say that they could be.
Yeah, they could. I'm not saying physically they couldn't do it.
No, yeah. Or that they might, because some women are like, I can do all of it. And you see that. But is there women that maybe are like, my perspective,
I go back to the desire and the mental. I'm not saying that physically they couldn't do this anymore.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say, I'm sure that there are women that still hold that desire and still can do and do it all. But do I think that the reality is that on the more common side, there is a shift in life, mentally, physically. And so, yes, I do think that perspective is like, say you're doing this really important game. Obviously, when you have failure, that hits any person hard. So you're like, oh, you don't get that goal, or you miss a kick that you're like, oh, I would have gotten that before. And that kind of stuff. And again, we're kind of speaking in generals, and that's okay. But I'm like, there are always outliers. But particularly, think about when a man loses. They're like fucking enraged sometimes. They're lunatics, regardless of age. Like, they're literally like, I can't handle it. The difference is, though, is that women, I think, have the ability then to be like, that sucked, but there's more important shit. And that keeps us not as crazy as you guys, which is why we should run the country.
Again, this is why in a way, I'm glad that we're having the discussion, because now you all know that I wasn't full of shit.
No.
And that there is some shit that I'm saying that actually, is true. And I'm not saying that the woman can't physically do it. I'm not saying that she's physically incapable of performing.
Oh yeah, no.
I'm just saying the mental capacity, the bandwidth of what's important.
Yes, shifts big time.
Has shifted.
Yes.
And when men athletes, they have a baby, nothing shifts.
No.
Fucking at all.
Not their sleep schedule.
Not a damn thing. When Kennedy was born, this was the difference. My wife would be out there. She would cry and be like, "Oh my God, I have to take." And it's just instinct.
Well, that's also the cry thing. That's like, I mean, have you heard that another woman can hear a baby cry And if
she'll
she is
start lactating.
if she's able to lactate, she'll start lactating.
Yeah.
That's what I mean, where there's like a primal shift.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And the difference was, so that's my wife, right? When it was her turn. And when it was my turn, I would go to the living room and put Kennedy in the bassinet, right?
Okay.
And I would sleeping on the couch and Kennedy would cry. And literally, I shit you not, you can ask my wife when you see her, I would say, hey, from the couch, hey, baby girl, daddy's here. And Kennedy would fall right asleep. All right. And she would hate it so much that I didn't have to go over there and be like, oh my God. Oh. I would be like, baby, Aggie's here. And she would be like, okay. He's like, because
For some reason that irritates me.
And the whole point was, the whole difference was, because I knew that I was like, we already fed her. I know
hungry.
it's none of those things. I'm like, it's just,
She's
know
just
like
checking in.
she's just,
Am I alone?
am I alone? That's all it is. Am I alone? And the fact that Daddy's here was like, oh, okay, someone's here with me. And I know it sounds silly and stupid. And the only reason why I know this was because my mom is a professional nanny. And she would tell me, she's like, most of the time when babies wake up, after you check whether if they're fed,
They have all their needs.
All their needs set. It's just the fact that they're afraid that they're alone because they're so used to being with someone for 9 months, and suddenly you're out here on your own. And she's like, so she's like, women. She would tell me this. She was like, women, it's very hard for them to hear them cry and not like rush and grab them. And she's like, but if they just hear your voice, it's what they're accustomed to. Because when they're in the womb, they would just hear your voice, right? They would hear you. They would hear your heartbeat. They would hear you. So they knew they weren't alone. So if you just say, hey, in a voice, hey, I'm here, they would be like, okay, someone's here.
To be honest, that's for everybody, not just babies.
Exactly. We all don't want to be alone.
No, yeah. I mean, like, I feel like if everybody was able to just, like, if adults were able to be like, wah, what's going on? And someone would be like, hey, I got you.
Hey, I'm here.
I'm right here. You're like,
I'm here.
Shit. Okay.
We should make an app.
Baby girl, I got you.
Baby girl, I'm here. Hey, I'm here.
I think that's might be why they made that hey girl in Gosling Insta, just being like, someone's there.
So along the same lines as we were talking, Yafo Nafo, because we were talking about this athletic thing, right? And I'm running into a problem because I coach a girls soccer team at a center, like a rec center. And so they have a bunch of girls playing, and then they get to a certain age, like 13, 14. And it goes from, like, let's say 80 girls playing at like 7 through 10, 11. And then at 13, there's just a drop of like girls not playing. It's not the price point, because the price point is $10.
No.
So you're deciding that it's to a point where you're just like, dude, I'd rather do something else than go out there and
That's a
play.
prime time for a hormonal shift.
Yeah. And so I want to know, is there anything that anyone can do to keep the girls playing? Anything. It doesn't have to be soccer. I'm talking about softball, volleyball, anything that any parents can do to keep the girls engaged for that to happen.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, and the only reason why I push team sports and sports in general, especially for women, is because if you do it, I don't know if people are doing this correctly or not, but if you do it correctly and you show that all women are on a team, primary goal, learn to communicate with each other for that goal. And not that the outcome is the win, but the
how you communicate. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
The communication amongst women, I feel like it's the difference. It's why
the only thing I do want to say is I totally agree. But men team are not like, fuck our communication. You better win. Like
that's the way we communicate.
But you think after they're like, you screwed up, dude.
Obviously, who runs the world?
But if you lost, if you guys lost, would you be like, our communication was bad, guys? We got to work on that. No, you'd be
no. That's the way we communicate, though. It is the way that we've learned to communicate with each other in that form. Before it was in the battlefield. Now we don't have that, right? So now we have to and now even men don't communicate that way. Even playing sports, because even men don't play sports anymore, right? Yeah. So now they play like in whatever,
Game Boy, that's old
Xbox or whatever, and they're talking to each other. Hey, fuck you, bitch!
Yeah,
you know
Snap
what I
that
mean?
Shit. Snipe him.
You know what I mean? So there's still that communication amongst men, which I don't think girls have. And then when you break them out of the sports community, their little sports community, I don't think they develop the skill set to go forward later on in life. That's my thought. Yafo, Nafo?
Naffle, but we can talk about it.
All right. Nafo.
Yeah.
All right.
What do you think, Roomie? Do you have anything?
Not full. I mean, I didn't grow up with sports.
Okay. So what I would say too, again, like I don't mean to keep being a little clinical and like dropping it back to that, but again, you're talking about like puberty phases. So a lot of things happen at puberty for young girls, particularly body shifts. So their bodies look different. They're also like in that weird phase where you're like, wait, what's happening? And then you also are becoming like, as your body is shifting, your brain is shifting because you're having change in hormones. And then particularly, there's that difference in guys and girls at that stage where like you really start to see that like, okay, I've known Johnny since first grade, but now we're in 8th grade and I look at Johnny different. So it's like, I think that they're also at this point of like understanding the difference between male and female and like seeing how that's like, they're experiencing that as they're getting older. And I think like for me, I played softball for 12 years. I didn't care about this, but there are people I know that like guys are like, oh, softball is like a lesbo sport. I mean,
that's what stopped you.
Well, but then it's like, so then there were certain sports that you realize guys were labeling like hot girls play this sport, other girls play these. Because
Hot girls play soccer.
Yes. So they'd be like, hot girls play soccer. Because at the same time too, then it's like, what is the body type of certain sports because of what's the demand and how that sport, so soccer girls have nice booties. They're running around the entire game. So say softball, it's like, you're not running, but it's a different kind of sport where like power is, running the bases, but like, can you drive that ball out in the field? Which is a different kind of
muscle
physics. Group. Yeah, for a woman. So it's like how that athlete develops, like a swimmer is going to be very different than a soccer player. And so like, I know girls that grew up swimming and then they were like phenomenal swimmers, but they're like, yeah, the older I get, the broader my shoulders are getting. And then guys are like, dude, you got a linebacker shoulder. Because guys are, idiots and they'll say stupid stuff that unfortunately are like tic-tac comments that just, bink, sit in the brain. And then the reality is just like boys where they start looking at girls like, what's their thought when they see a girl? Pretty singular. So girls start being like, they recognize that. And I think that sometimes there can be a shift in that where they're like, how does this make me look? What are my priorities? Because it's like, guys aren't going to see girls play their games. Girls see guys play their games.
Now that's
true.
Roomie, what do you feel about this? Like you said you didn't grow up playing sports.
But I did, my physical extracurricular activity was ballet. And I did stop at a certain point. Because
why did you stop?
Because I felt bad about my body and I knew I'd never be a prima ballerina. I wasn't skinny enough, even though I was super skinny.
You're super skinny now.
Oh, yeah. But ballerina stuff is cray. I have a friend that did that too. Yeah. That she went to like a private ballerina, like high school and like then like shipped away, like very extreme. And she didn't finish and left. And now it's like, you can't even talk to her about ballet. She's like, I don't even want to talk about it. But she did it like almost like a competitive athlete kind of thing.
Yeah. No, I think it gave me my very first like body image issues. And I think it's a lot harsher mentally in a different way.
All right. So let's get to that then. Because again, because I'm a guy and I'm simple, as I've been told here. Chemically, I'm simple.
Yep.
It's not our fault.
One really strong chemical.
It's not our fault, gentlemen. It seems that nature has made us this way.
Yes, but somehow you convinced us that we're like just a little below.
It's the shoulders.
Could be.
So how can we then help our young girls continue? Because would you say that when you were doing ballet, before the shift happened, were you saying that you were getting something out of it?
Oh yeah, I mean,
like a healthy perspective.
Mentally, there was discipline, and you learned how to work hard at something.
Did you miss it? Like once you decided to leave it?
Oh yeah, but I was tired of like people judging my body, people judging me, and judging myself. And I think that's what maybe a performance sport or any sport does, is you have to be willing to take
the criticism.
And it's like,
but that's in life, no?
But there's a different. And there's a different way in which the world and society criticizes women versus criticizes men. And that I think starts a lot younger for women. And it becomes a lot more prevalent that the world is looking at you different as you develop as a woman. And so there's also that period of time where I think there's a lot of trying to do like self-directing
Yeah.
And that's where you're kind of like, okay, what's next? And so honestly, like, I think that there's like the simplicity of just like, go do ballet because you enjoy it. And it's like, no, that was taken.
Yeah, that's right. That's where I'm finding out, like, because.
And I don't know if that happens for guys. I think they can just go play sports forever.
I mean, you see, we know El Pio is currently still playing.
He's actually doing finger push-ups right now to get that strength back.
Yeah.
He's still out there, thinking he's got a shot somewhere,
But he thinks that because of that he like that a 20-year-old girl is like, what's up?
He's like that fade. But how do we then keep healthy? Because I'm interested in it because I have a girl, right? And she's really into sports. And I've made it not about winning. I've made it more about the communication. I've made it more about the community. I've made it more about hoping for them to stay together. The team, the girls, for them to stay together and understand that. And I tell them all the time, like, no judgment out here. Don't complain about someone missing a pass or someone making a mistake. No one's coming out here with saying, I'm going to suck today. Everyone's coming out here with their best intentions. And when they make a mistake, we should just
I don't think most
them.
people coach like you. And I'm not trying to toot your own horn,
No.
but I mean, there are a lot of coaches who I think push female athletes to be like, men do it almost like do it like the men. Don't have emotion, don't do that, like focus.
But also that there's no point in playing if you're not winning.
Right.
Yeah, you see, I don't care. Like, I tell them, like, it doesn't matter. I'm like, what we're here to do is learn our positions, learn how to pass, learn how to trap, learn how to communicate, learn how to switch the ball. That's what we're here to do. I'm like, I don't care whether you score or you don't score. I don't care how many goals they score against us or they don't score against us. I'm like, that doesn't matter. And I'm like, sure can matter to you guys. What we're trying to do at this age is this. This is our prime objective, is this. If we do these things, winning should follow. But if it doesn't, we're getting better, right? So I don't want you to feel like the score dictates your performance, because it doesn't.
Why should anyone love soccer?
Not soccer.
I'm just asking, like, what is
Do
it
you
about
think if
the
they
game?
don't do sports, they won't have a sense of community and communication?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
I do.
Yeah.
I
No,
do. I
not
feel
full.
to a certain.
Not full.
I think to a certain extent. I think especially now, where most kids are attached to a device, right? They're attached to a device at all times. They hardly make eye contact. They hardly can communicate. They hardly want to like engage in real life with someone else. I think the only way that to break that, at least for a few hours during the day, is to play, because the days of knocking on someone's door and saying, can Sally come out and play, are gone. So how then do you create a community if you're no longer communicating the way that we're hardwired to communicate, which is face to face, which is tone of voice, which is smell, which is touch, and all of that. All those communicational skills are given to you via sports. All of them are.
Not just sports. I mean, there are other...
I understand. Yeah. Martial arts gives it to you. Ballet.
Art, yeah.
Right. But the majority of people aren't seeking those paths.
So the irony, though, is I think what you're talking about is more so the shift in... And that could be its episode in itself. The shift in technology and how it is affecting...
Not just them, but I'm trying to get them at this stage, right? I'm being very selfish.
Is like you're going up against a tsunami. If you think you're going to be like disengage them from a device
that's my goal. Literally, I tell my parents the same thing. I'm like, listen, the change is coming. We only got X amount of years for these girls to fall in love with this sport, so they have an exit from the device. I'm just trying to create an escape route, something that they can say, oh, I got practice. I got put this down. I got practice for 2 hours. Oh, I got a game, or I got an event with my team, right? I'm going laser tagging with my team, for example, right? So it disengages the device for an X amount of time, right? That's all I'm curious to know if it's possible to fight the change and give it another point of value. That's why like I said, because I don't think women look at winning in sports the same as men do. And this is what I mean, because I've coached boys and I've coached girls. Boys want to dominate. They want to dominate. When they're playing soccer, if I tell a kid, hey, I want you to make the right pass, I want you, what?
I'm going to do what I want.
I can take this fool by myself. Just pass me the ball. I'm wide open. I don't need to play like this. It's different.
Do you ever look at them and be like, it's not about you?
Yes. But with the girls, it's different. I can tell them, I can be like, we all have to be connected. And they don't want to outshine because they don't want to be like, not liked and not be the favorite. They all want to be like together. And so it's different. It's different for girls. It took me a long time to learn how to coach them and to be like, okay, so I gotta coach you all together as a group and give you all value at the same time, and it not be reflective of a score and be more reflecting on team play. How many passes we make, how many switches we attempt, how many times we communicate, like those things. I gotta make those things way more important than you dominating.
Well, I was gonna say too, the way you're kind of talking about it reminded me a little bit of like kind of getting pigeonholed, in the sense of like, okay, you're on a soccer team, you're hanging out with your soccer, and then it's like, I'm thinking about back in school where it's like, oh, those are the soccer girls, oh, those are the blah 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 people, and it's like now you're getting bunched into groups. And so I also think that there is a big shift too between, I don't know how it works in every state, but like a shift between middle school and high school. That to me is the greatest shift, more so than like, because I went into middle school, anyone was like, what sport are you going to try out for?
Right.
What sport are you trying out for? Da 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 da. And then high school is also where there is a shift in how sports are looked at. So now it's like, if you want to play a high school sport, depending on the school, it's not for fun anymore.
No, it's not
We're
for fun.
a D1, 2, or 3,
that's
and
not for fun. Once you
now,
get to high
but
school,
then
it's
it's
not
also then you have parents being like, okay, well, what are you going to do with soccer? You trying to get a scholarship? Well, you got to work real hard to get a scholarship. And then it's like, I think that in general, we underestimate or maybe we forget of like what is happening when someone hits like their teens or like that point in life. Cause it's like a little bit more of reality settles in and you start like, cause people are now not like, what do you want to do tomorrow? They're like, what are you going to do
5 years from
5
now?
years from now? And so now your brain can't even enjoy going outside and playing soccer. Cause you're like, should I be doing this or am I a good enough soccer player that I should put my dedication to this? Because if it's not going to get me a scholarship, why am I wasting my time doing all this work? Sitting pigeonholing in one area, seeing people who only play soccer, girls that are only doing this, and not saying that like that doesn't happen, but there is this kind of like, okay, well, what am I going to do with this?
A shift in priorities, which is what I did with ballet.
Because then it's like, what are you going to do? Are you going to try to go to,
Look, you do Muay Thai now. Is anyone being like, yo, so you're doing Muay Thai? Are you planning on fighting? When are you getting in the ring here? You've been training for almost a year.
That's the first time I've experienced it again in my adulthood, in my life since childhood. Is like learning to love something because you enjoy it.
Just because you enjoy it,
Yes.
right? Because it's an outlet. Is what I'm saying, right? You've created yourself this outlet of like at least for an hour, 2 hours of whatever day or whatever. It's a getaway for you to go to, right? And a lot of it stems back to ballet. It explains why you can kick the way you can kick in the coordination that you have, and
Combos, choreography.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It completely. One
Ticks
connects
the same boxes.
Exactly. It connects the focus of it connects completely, and the beauty of it is there's no judgment. Right? No one is saying
You don't get a grade for it. No one's expecting you to pursue it 5 years from now.
right.
You don't have, or also it's like you don't have an entire team of people that are behind you that you could disappoint. Because I will tell you that might be also something, not that I don't think men fear disappointment, but again, there is this shift in how society looks at women, and you start to feel that in your like older adolescence where it's like, okay, the world is starting to look at me different, and they're going to continue to do so as I become more and more of a woman.
So now you guys have your opportunity here to talk to girl dads, right? Including myself. How do we support our young girl athletes going forward to give them this escape route when the device has you? Because honestly, my fear is, and I'm sure that a lot of dads maybe have this fear and they don't say it out loud, is that they're going to lose their child or their, whether it's a boy or girl, to the device, right? Like their device is going to shape them, and which by the way, I already know there's no stopping that.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
But you have to be able to give them a route to be like, hey, you need something else besides this device. You need to go engage with, I don't know, real people. for an X amount of time. You know what I mean? How then do we do that? Because I'm trying to do it via sport, right? And via like karate or via, art projects when she wants to do them. That's what she's doing today with mom. She's doing an art project, right? So she has her little escape routes from it. But how do we continue cultivating that for it to be like a muscle memory thing? Like what Roomie here has been able to go back to and being like, oh, as an adult, this is now a stress reliever. This is now soothing for me to like go and, I had a terrible, stressful day. I don't know what to do with my life. I'm going to go.
I can get it out this way.
I'm going to go punch a pad.
Yeah. I feel like it's more about not necessarily sport particularly, but like as she continues to grow up, what I would think is like emphasizing the importance of, because things start to like, okay, for example, like now I'm older and weirdly there are things that are coming up that things that I did as a kid, both things that I enjoyed doing, things that I was really good at doing, that basically fall off because it's like, well, that doesn't relate to my technical job. So like most people wouldn't know, but it's like, I love singing. I'm really good at a singer, but it's like, no one's going to know that unless they're in the car with me. I'm good at drawing and painting. I'm like really good at art, but I went into a science-based job where it's like, there's no outlet for that. And then at the same time, it's like, I'll sometimes try now to do little activities where it does create this kind of peace in my mind, because it's like you don't realize how quickly life pushes you into that rat race. And so not necessarily being like, if you're on a sport, you can communicate with it, but being like focusing on not allowing them to, or not letting their brain think that they have to go in one direction, and reminding people that it's like, you can always turn. There's like this idea of, and I think maybe that's the thing with sports too, whether or not you emphasize like, it's about what we're doing. Everybody who's playing a game is like, no, it's about winning. Like respectfully, no one's trying to play a game and be like, I hope I lose this. Everybody, male or female, is like, I want to win this game. Yeah. So that also, I understand that can create like a good drive for something, but that can also start to really break down someone's psyche in a way of like, there's winning and there's losing, period. And no matter what a coach says, because I played softball for 12 years. Unfortunately, my dad was a coach for a good amount of that. And the thing was, is he
not looking at this the same way.
No, but he wasn't like, but at the end of the day, he was like, yeah, you want to have a good game and play well. But yeah, what are we all doing here? Like, you think everybody's showing up just to like, whatever, have a good time? No, people are showing up because they want to do their best and try to win. And so sometimes that drive is where the evulsion is, where you're like, fuck this game. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I was at the point where I was just like, you pitch the ball, you dive for that, you do, like it was getting to the point where it was just like
no longer fun. It
was irritating. It was like, it was more reflecting potential, because there can also be, you can play a sport for a long time and be like, I'm not going to become,
the majority do not.
Right. And then there's this kind of thing of like, why am I killing myself for this? Because at the end of the day, everyone can be like, you played so well. But when I'm by myself with my head, it's like, you fucked up this, you did this. If you did this, maybe we could have won. I mean, like, you guys think that women don't think like that. We do.
Oh, no, I think all
so it's like, it's a little bit of, I think, potentially, and whether or not men don't have as many different outlets outside of sports that kind of carry that same degree, women can find other things that they find interesting in group activities that aren't necessarily sports, but that they're like, even down to, I know this is not a guy thing, but like hanging out with your friends and just talking shit.
I beg to differ. I have a wife and I know a lot of women, and hardly do I know any of them that call each other and be like, hey, bitch, what are you doing? Want to hang out? We should get together. Hardly any.
But that's not because they don't want to. It's because all these other things, I mean, schedules.
I still call and talk shit over the phone. And that is the same thing.
Or talk shit during text, memes on Insta. That's what everybody, ironically though, it's like the device is hitting everybody. So sometimes, I even joke, I have two sisters and my dad will be like, oh, did you talk to your sister? I'm like, well, what is your definition of talking? Because we send each other memes every day. Try to make ourselves laugh, or something being like, fucking mom and dad, man, this hit like it does for you. But I think that there's also, unfortunately, and I totally understand your reservations, is like there's also a shift completely in how communication exists, unfortunately.
Yeah,
and I don't necessarily have.
I see AI coming, right?
Oh, yeah.
I see. So I'm like,
AI is even coming from my job, dude.
yeah. I'm just like in my head. I'm just like, it's the way I communicate is over. It's hieroglyphics. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's no longer.
I mean, people don't even know how to write anymore.
Don't know how to write. Don't know how to cursive. I mean, it's gone. It's in AI, and so I look at my daughter, and I'm just like, oh man, are we gonna be able to communicate? Like, I guess it's more of me and her thing, or me and us thing. That I'm like, are we gonna be able to actually, like, am I gonna be able to look at something that's like 20 and I'm like 60, and are we gonna be able to communicate, or are they just gonna?
Well, I'll tell you right now, it is gonna shift, and I'll give you a little example, because again, it's like I'm the youngest of four. My brother is the oldest, but the rest of us are all girls. So my dad has 3 girls. He grew up with 4 sisters. And so raising girls for him, I think it was also like, he was born in the 50s, dude. And he saw, like, you know, he's seen a lot of stuff, and obviously the things that we're going through now. But I remember, you know, being young, and I think his priority was, and still kind of is the concern of where you get shoved into, like, where he knew in adolescence that shift happens of like how we're looking at ourselves, how we're looking at our body, how we're thinking our bodies are being perceived, or, you know, how we're starting to basically come into the world. And there were things that, you know, even now as an adult, you know, one thing that he, you know, will say, like, oh, have you been doing this? Or like his gifts, he'll say, I don't want you to buy me anything. I'm actually the only child he's like, you're the only one who still tries. But he'd be like, I don't want any bought gifts. So what that meant was like anything from you. And sometimes my siblings would be like, what do you mean? And he'd be like, sing me a song. But he'd be like, give me something of you.
Right.
And that's what's important. So that pushed me to, like, I would write all the time. And then he would be, you know, like I've written him like poems or things that honestly.
Oh, that's by far more priceless.
Well, yeah. And the nice thing is like not all of them, but like some of them, even at the end of that, I was like, shit, look what I did. And then to even, my dad is very well read. And so when he, you know, because even growing up when I started writing, he would be like, write every day. Even if you got nothing to write about, that's how you discipline that. And I'd be like, no, I don't want to do that. Or like, he'd be like, edit. Like, I know what you're trying to say in that, but you're not quite hitting it. And then I'd be like, well, I don't want to edit it, because like, that's how I felt in the moment. And my dad's like, that's too bad, because you got I'm not receiving what you're trying to get out there. And I don't think it's just because I'm your dad. I mean, he was also the type of person that when I was writing, he'd be like, that's great. Why don't you try writing from a different perspective? And I remember being like 14. I'm like, how do I do that? You know, and he's like, I get it. You're not going to really be able to relate to like a 40-year-old. But he's like, why don't you try writing from a 14-year-old boy's perspective when you write next? And it was just this kind of like engagement in these activities that seem like as you get older are like, hobby. And I think people forget that as children, you know, you have way more of those that you're allowed to cultivate. And the older you get, the more that society is like, you don't have time for that. You don't have time for that.
Yeah.
And I think the greatest thing
is that where that generation.
I think it is. It's so much sooner.
Like,
yes.
You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, like, I'm not trying to make you uncomfortable, but like my friend is a middle school teacher. Kids are doing stuff in the bathroom. Then I'm like, say what? I didn't do that until I was 19.
I mean,
like, why are you like, what are you talking about?
But even Dio is like, why are you worrying about that at 25? I never worried about that at 25.
Because he's a guy.
24. And he's like, I wasn't thinking about it.
Of course he wasn't. He was thinking about getting laid. Like most 24-year-old guys. I mean, they're like, I go to work, I get up, I
play basketball.
I wake up, you know what I'm saying? And then, like, I love how guys are like, whoopsie. It's like, yeah, we all figured out that note. I don't know why you guys all wake up like this, but we got it. You start your day one way, you do that, you take a shit.
Is it a generational thing, or with my generation, does it happen sooner that you have to identify as something now, and that becomes your main thing, whether it's career, whether it's...
I think people realize that it's like, if you like something, are you like, it's like, what is that? Like, I'm stuck. That's what I got to do. Or like, if you know, there are also people, I know this sounds strange, that are naturally really good at certain things. And think about things like you're talking about, you know, like, or doing a sport where it's like, the idea of it too is also the growth and challenge that comes with that activity.
Right.
So then I think for some people, when some things become more natural, even though people might be around them being like, you're so good at this, anyone would die to have this kind of talent. You're like, I don't care. This is like, like kind of like almost like a Goodwill Hunting thing.
Yes.
Like, this is fucking child's play for me.
Yeah.
This is not interesting. This is not fun.
This is not challenging.
And then if they went to do something that did challenge them and was fun, but maybe wasn't as extreme, and then there's like, well, you want to go do that instead of this? You're phenomenal at this. And it's like, yeah, but life is also about growth.
Right.
If you got a bunch of people just doing what they're good at.
I dominated this already.
So that could be too, not necessarily looking at it like, oh, they're not interested in sports anymore, but it's like my perspective is about what.
Back to the woman brain changing.
Yes.
And
yes.
the development and it being like,
Perspectives change.
Like, listen, I already dominated this, or I was all right with this. I can see 5 years into the future. I'm not going to be great at this. I'm not going anywhere with this.
I see something else that piques my interest that I can grow further with this, and I think I'm kind of at the tail end of this.
Would you agree with that, Roomie?
Yeah, and I don't know, just teach your kid to be like a holistic human that
I don't have no idea what the fuck you just said.
I don't know, like
What's holistic?
I mean, you're doing
I don't know.
I think what I would say is, okay, I'll give you another example, because especially as like
Holistic.
a girl,
Back to holistic.
the whole thing is important.
Okay.
everything.
Not just career, not just being
Sports.
successful at this one sport.
Oh, this is why men get it all. That's why we don't understand.
You want to be like, you're like, it's, I know
I'm
it's
only
silly, it
good,
seems
like,
silly.
at
It's
two
like, you want to be
things.
like, you have great style and you're doing that, like, and you, look at the way you drew that or whatever. It's like cultivating everything, making it like you have so many things about you that are fantastic. Give attention to all of it. Give
Yes.
attention to all of it. Don't just say, oh, this is the thing that I'm the best at. I'm going to give all my attention to that, because at the end of the day, that will leave you feeling empty and you'll regret
That
not
is
nurturing the rest of you.
Very, very wise thing. If anything, we all got out of that for girl dads. It was that right there. Because again, back to coaching boys than girls, we focus on one thing only because where are we?
Simple. Simple.
But what happens when that one thing doesn't work out in your whatever?
Yeah, I mean, you end up, getting rehab on your finger at like 30, 50.
Or watch, or respectfully, I know this sounds silly, watch the way a man responds to being dumped versus a woman. Because they feel like it's like, this doesn't happen to me. She must be crazy.
It's an ego.
Oh yeah, obviously, ego is the strongest part of a man's psyche. But the reality is, people be like, "Oh, get rid of your ego." No, you need a complete psyche, but you need to learn, and that's maybe the thing that, not in a bad way, that you're not realizing is that women learn to nurture things outside of just ego, and that's where sports fall off.
That right there is probably, if anything, what we've gotten out of this conversation is that right there, because I mean, egg is a huge
But a little
portion.
side note too, like, so I like music, obviously. My dad like went to Woodstock. He was like big 70s guy, loves music. And that was something also that he would be like, I'm never going to tell you what kind of music you can and can't listen to. Sometimes he would joke and be like, this sounds like shit to me. But he was like, I know how important music was for me. And that's something that's also very personalized. So he's like, I might disagree with what you like, but I'm sure as hell not going to tell you what you can and can't like. And so now fast forward in college, a lot of life experiences hit me, especially my freshman year of college. And I'm close with my dad. And I remember there were things that were happening that I was thinking like, oh my God, I want to talk to my dad about this. But like, how the fuck do I talk to my dad about this? Like things are happening. And so I remember just being like really down. And there was, I think, this kind of intuitive understanding that my dad was like, I can imagine the things that are making her upset or whatever. And so without having that awkward conversation that I think both of us couldn't have, he would send me CDs with like a little Post-it on it that would be like, oh, I know you're feeling like that. Like one of them was Bob Marley's Greatest Hits. And he goes, and it was just like, life can be pretty crazy sometimes. Just sit for a minute. And he's like, listen to this album straight through if you can. And he goes, and then take a breath, take a walk, and come back to it when you need to. And so it was also adjusting in how this was my dad who started coaching me at like 8 or 9. And now as an adult is like,
Still
okay,
coaching.
there's a different way that he approaches it where he'll say, why don't you or even now, like he'll be like, hey, there's this really interesting show I started watching. Have you heard about this show? He'd be like, I think you'd really like it. And sometimes I think it's like, and then I'll start watching and be like, oh, that's the character he's thinking of. that reminded him of me. And, you know, like even after college, I was in DC, I was becoming a nurse. I was stressing out. I was trying to pay bills all by myself for the first time. And I was, again, in a really stressful point. And I remember my dad sent me, actually, it was Sia's CD, who used to not do house music. She used to be a different kind of singer, and you saw her face. But she had an album called Some People Have Real Problems. And my dad sent me that, and he goes, I thought the name of this album was fitting. Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. And that was the note, you know? So it's not this like complexity of just being like, in these times of stress, he knows that music brings me comfort and peace.
Right.
And so that's his way of saying, hey, take a minute. Don't forget who you are.
Back to telling you back in the
kind of pulling you back,
bassinet.
Pulling you back in.
I'm here, baby.
Yeah.
See how we tie it in the knot?
Yeah.
See how we tie it in a little knot? And with that, people, we're going to leave you on Yaffle Naffle. I want to thank Nurse Ratched and Roomie.
Thank you.
Don't
Hi.
just say peace. No one can
Pleasure.
see you.
Yeah, she's throwing the gooses.
Good to see you all.
Yes.
All right. And we be
Out.
Chicka chicka. Ow.
That was so cute.